Okay, welcome once again to our NGO grants and financial management training. We have done, and this is our third session. We've studied a lot about grants management, and we want to continue with the learning to see how we can progress with the knowledge we are going to gain out of this. So we ended yesterday with looking at a budget, and we are trying to go in deep to understand how budgets can be developed, but as well as we want to understand how do we do what we call budget phasing and budget monitoring. Now, a budget phasing or a phased budget is basically a breakdown of the annual budget or a breakdown of the overall grant budget in, say, month, or could be quarterly, could be annually or semi-annually. And the reason why we break down that budget is because you want to hold yourself accountable on a monthly basis. And you also do your monitoring on a monthly basis. So we are going to see how that happens. Now, the benefits for this, of course, it also helps you for planning your cash flows from the side of cash flow management. Once you know how much you'll be spending in, let's say, every month, you also make sure that that money is actually is provided to be present at that point in time. Remember, I also say that sometimes the donors give us money based on our phased budgets, as and when we expect to implement or we expect to spend that amount of money. And of course, it also helps us to monitor our budget rightly, because once we are monitoring our budget, as we have phased our budgets, let's say monthly, then it helps us that we are tracking our budget also on a monthly basis. Even the variance analysis is also done on a monthly basis. Now, the same thing also when it comes to, of course, it also tries to give us a picture of what is exactly in the operations. You know, when the budget is wholesome, you cannot easily tell how much relates to what, because these are wholesome figures. So once we have our budget phased, then it gives us more information to help us during the operations. So I would want to show you how we phase our budget. So just a moment. Okay. Now, before we look at the phasing of the budget, I want to, okay. Before we do that, we want to know where the budget starts from. We want to know where the budget starts from, especially the budget preparation. Now, after you have, of course, your proposal, you've submitted your proposal, this has been approved, the agreement has been signed. Once the agreement has been signed, of course, when you're doing your proposal, you submitted a budget on with the proposal. But in most cases, this budget may not be so much detailed, and okay, depending on the templates that of course the other party may really give you. But in case, if course it was not detailed, after receiving the amount of money, it's good for you to come down and look through your budget to make sure that you're matching your budget with your implementation plan. Now, for example, what you're seeing on the screen here is our implementation plan. Now, these activities, of course, also come from your proposal. You have an intended objective of what exactly you want to achieve. You get it. So based on that, you're able to draw up the different activities you're going to do. So yours may not be, for example, this is a healthy project where we're going to deal with, of course, health workers improving their skills and so on. Yours can be livelihood, where you're going to train youth or you're going to train women. You get it. So you have to break down your different activity. What exactly are you going to do? You get it. For example, here we're going to conduct orientation meetings with health authority. We're going to develop local adaptations of evidence-based training materials and so on. Now, as you do that, you also, of course, one, you can have your few assumptions that you're making towards this activity. You can also, of course, have, any project activity action detail, and then maybe who is responsible as well. And then right here, as we proceed here, you have your something that looks like a calendar. So this calendar is trying to allocate where each of this activity will be done. So for example, this activity will be done in January. This activity will be done in February, and maybe it will end in March. Once you move down, we are going to have a first training for 5 regions, and the training will happen in April. The next one will happen in this period. The next one will happen in this period, like that. Now, when you're developing your budget, you also have to make sure that when you're budgeting for the amount of money for this activity, you budget it in the month of January. You budget it in the month of January, because according to your implementation plan, this activity will actually be in January. So whoever wants to look at your budget for such an activity, let's say our first activity, just a moment. So this is our overall budget. This is our overall budget. So you can see this is expected result 1. As it is here, we are bringing it here in our budget, and then we are trying to give a value to it. You get it? So when you're going to phase your budget, now this is a budget template. This is a wholesome donor budget. So whatever you see here are wholesome figures. You get, this is the total for this line. But when it comes to the phased budget, you have to divide this value within the respective months that's going to be. So an amount like the 200 will appear if at all our first activity here in our work plan is indicating January. When we are doing it within our phased budget, it will actually be under January. You get it? So this is dividing our budget. We are going to see how that appears. So one of the things you have to know is that when you're copying your budget, it doesn't have to divert from your work plan. Of course, your implementation plan, some people might call it work plan. So of course, there are some things that you really not see within your implementation plan, like for example, maybe salaries. These may not really appear here, but at least you know that these are part of your budget, and therefore you would have to go ahead to include them. If I try to freeze pens. Okay, I wanted to do something here. Okay, so I want to demonstrate something here, that there are costs like our salary costs that definitely you will not see in the work plan, because these are presumed, they are fully known. They don't even have a timeline, because their timeline is every month, every period. So Of course, these are what, of course, our donor approved. So for example, this grant was running from January 2015 to December 2015. That is the donor, that is the amount in euros, and it was going to be implemented in Lakeside Town and Field Village. So we have our personnel costs. Now, personnel costs, of course, if this project is from January 2015 to December 2015, you know very well that you're going to plan for your personnel costs for say 12 months. You get it, especially some, of course, some personnel costs. There are some staff costs that you maybe plan for a little smaller time based on the assignment. There are certain staff that will come in at maybe at the start of the project and then maybe leave after, according to the way you're planning. Then there are staff that will continuously be on the project. So a case in example, of course, one of the things you have to know, of course, for example, have this staff, this is senior health officer, and they're saying 100%. Now, by saying 100% means this person is going to be charged 100% on this project. So you can see, so per month, this is the unit cost. These columns are very key when you're developing your budget. These columns are very key. Somebody wants to know the unit description. Are you looking at per month? Are you looking at per event in terms of your unit cost? You get it, eh? Yeah. So it's very important for us to know. And then, of course, we are paying this for 12 months. So, of course, when you want to get the total, it is this monthly cost times 12 that is giving us this value, of course, which gets down to our total. And this is about 47%. This I was just trying to test something. So basically, these are the critical columns. These are the critical columns that you need here. So you can see, for example, this senior health officer, for them, their unit was 2. Maybe they were going to be with us for only 2 months. You get it, on this project. So we have where we have, for example, activities. Now, these activities, of course, you plan them according to how you expect it to happen. You get it, like we saw on our plan. For example, translation and print, here we're trying to look at per event, and this is what we are going to do. And then when we move to our expected result 2, I think you can see we have participant transportation, we have participants per diem, we have participants, of course, we have another participant accommodation, and then we have meeting room rent, we have the training, material, cost, and so on. Now, when we get here to our work plan, you're going to see something small here. You see, our result 2 included trainings. You get it, included trainings. And all the other costs that you're seeing when it comes to your donor budget are trying to plan for those trainings. You get it. They're trying to plan for those trainings. And then as we proceed down, of course, you also don't have to forget about your support costs. Now, these are usually costs that are like office nature, like maybe consumables, you have rent and utilities, and you can see for this, they plan for them. They plan for them 12 months, because it is presumed that as long as this project is available, these costs have to be met. You get it, eh? This is the unit cost per month, and then this is just the subtotal, which gives you the same thing the other side. Then we have, of course, we have the equipment. Of course, these staff will need laptops, or maybe there will be a desktop and so on. So here we're trying to look at a set, and this is the value. We're trying to look at 1, and this is the amount. You get it. So this is just a simplified budget. But yesterday I was also showing you how else a budget can look like. I think you remember for. So depending on the size of the project and depending on how detailed the donor may be interested in, then your budget can really look differently. So let me just show you how this budget would look like and hide. Sorry. Okay, so you can see that this budget had more, it had more stuff on it. I think there are some fields that I'm not seeing. Okay, so it also had program activities broken down. Now here, these are just basically totals, but definitely before you came to these totals, you have to make sure that you're looking at the unit cost, you're looking at how maybe it is per event and so on, and then your total. Now, of course, once you've all, that is usually so much when you're doing the application. Once you have already this approved, now you can just have your total and then play with that. Maybe you're phasing or you're doing whatever you're doing. You get it? So that is what we basically have. So the principle is you have to make sure you budget for every cost. Now, like I said, when it comes to phasing, I'll try to maybe hide this. When it comes to phasing, yours is to make sure that you create your respective period. Now, for example, if this is annual, if this is an annual budget, yours is to create your January, create your February. Should be able to give us. Up to December. So if there are salary costs, what we usually just do, divide by 12. Of course, you can fix this. And it will be the same across. With budgeting, as long as you're good at Excel and you know what you're doing, you can basically be able to. So at the end of the day, we assume that by the end of the whole financial year, you should have spent this money and you should spend it like this. Now, there are cases where these figures may not be uniform like this. Maybe these values also include, especially when we are budgeting for personnel costs, we usually also include costs like the NSSF contribution. I think you can see on this budget, there was no an independent line on that. We include the company contribution for NSSF. We also go ahead to include like medical insurance. We also include things like group life insurance, group personal accident, and so on. So you can find that part of this value includes that figure, and maybe you make that payment, usually make that payment in the month of, let's say, April. You get it? So it means that in your month of April, this value would be high. So it will not be, you have a uniform figure maybe for January, February, and this, and maybe in this month, it will be higher. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're not exceeding your overall total of 50 million. So depending. And then also one of the things you have to know, especially when it comes to maybe staff costs as well, is you can find some people budgeting where they budget, for example, program officer, but you can also find that maybe a program assistant is actually charging this line. if, for example, maybe the donor, sometimes donors don't want detailed kind of, don't want everyone on maybe on your list, and maybe you have a program assistant. That program assistant can actually charge this line. You get it? So that is what you do basically for staff costs. And then when it comes to, for example, to, of course, when it comes to activities, you look at when will the activity happen. You get it? For example, if this was, for example, if this activity was going to be done in, let's say, the month of February, you would come and put that amount of money in the month of February, like that. If, for example, this amount of money is going to be spent in 2 months, in the month of June and July, you'd come and maybe it's going to be spent halfway, in equal installments. I'll just divide by 2, like that. So that is what will basically happen. So what happens after I've done this phasing is that I'll have now a monthly budget that I'm now going to also use to make variance analysis with the performance for that respective month. You get it? So that is what exactly I'll be able to do, because I already have this kind of information. So that is what you basically do. Now, when you're also doing phasing, especially now that we do cash-based system, make sure that the month you're phasing in is the month you're actually going to make the payment, not when you're going to start the activity. Remember, here you're planning for money. So you have to make sure that the month you're phasing in is the month you're actually going to make that respective payment. You get it, huh? Yeah. So for when it comes to, for example, laptops, these are usually one-offs. So you can phase this, especially maybe at the start of the project or maybe in the second month. You get it? And that is all. In case maybe, for example, you also included some, sometimes you can also include repair costs for laptops under this line, because you're not just buying these laptops, but sometimes they need maintenance. So the maintenance, you can maybe say the purchase is at 5,000, and maybe the balance is under maintenance. And the balance, you can maybe put it, let's say, maybe biannually. Maybe you expect that maybe at least within 6 months, these laptops can get a problem. So you budget it like that. So the same thing with these other costs. When it comes to these other support costs, just do out of 12. Just do out of 12 across. If it's internet, you know that that's the monthly cost. So just divide it by 12 across. So you know what amount you have for the month. Even when somebody is submitting an invoice of over, let's say, 500 on this line, yours is to say we don't have enough money on this line. So it's very important for us to have that in mind. So this is how it would be if it is on a monthly basis. Now, I want to show you something. If it is, for example, it's okay, maybe annual basis, but now this is from the side of the donor. So what you're seeing here on the screen is a budget template. Now, sometimes the donor may go ahead to give you their budget template. You get it? So as you can see, this is just a summary. So these are the like highlights that the donor wants to look at. So the donor is looking at your personnel. The donor is looking at your fringe benefits. They're also looking at your travel, supplies, contractual, and so on. Now, when it comes to your detailed budget, the donor has gone ahead, of course, to give you assumptions up here, to give you a table for assumptions. They want to make sure that every figure you're writing, they understand. For example, they are looking at the exchange rate to be at that value. They are taking into consideration the maybe inflation rate. They're also taking into consideration your local salary increase rate. Now, the reason why they are taking into consideration the inflation rate is because this project is multi-year. As you can see, this is a 3 years project. It has year 1, it has year 2, it has year 3. So they expect that some figures, if they were in year 1, if it is in year 2, they will of course increase because of the inflation rate. Now, when it comes to your personnel costs, they have also gone ahead to factor in your local salary increase rate, because they know that as the project is starting, maybe you have a given salary, but you also have an internal policy that keeps on increasing the respective salaries. You get it? So in this case, here they have simplified your work. So for example, in this case, if we had maybe part of our staff, maybe we could have maybe Ongom. If we had Ongom, okay, this is Ongom is our project manager. And then maybe we just write his name there, Ongom Chris. And this Ongom is Chris is getting maybe 7 million. Okay, did I write Troy? Okay, so Ongom is getting 7 million. Now, I told you yesterday that in most cases, the donor, if the donor is giving you money, let's say in USD, they would also want to know how much that money is in USD. So this amount of money has been able to compute itself to the USD using our exchange rate app. You get it? So this is the unit cost for Ongom. So when it comes to here, number of units, we are planning for year 1. Remember, if we are starting from 1st October to 2020 to 30th September 2021, these are 12 months. So that will be the value. So this will be the value. In most cases, some of these templates come with formulas and you're not required to change. Now, for example, this template, only where you see the blue is where you should change. You get it? Other things are automatically. So if we had maybe an accountant, maybe this was Justin, and maybe Justin was earning 4 million, not 40 million. Okay, so you can see this will be the value. Now would count maybe 12 months. Now, in case this accountant is let's say supporting other projects, and let's say maybe you want to incorporate that maybe you want to charge this project only 25%. What you basically do to initiate that, you just come here under your number of units. You can go ahead to include it here, and maybe put maybe you're just charging these people 25%. You can put it here so that it shows 3 months, but when in reality it is showing 3 because of the percentage that is charged. So on the annual salary of this accountant, they charge, basically this project pays like for 3 months. You get it like that. Sometimes some people may choose to, instead of you see we have 3, 4, 5. Instead of doing the effect from there, somebody can come here on this salary and they can go ahead to put the 25% here, the 25% there. So what that means that it will still give you the same value, but at the end of the day, you're able to have the right figure. Somebody says, is it the donor to give the exchange rate and inflation rate, or the receiver? Now, of course, there's kind of information between the two entities, but because you, the implementer, because you have a better picture of what is happening, especially maybe in your local country, you're the one who pre-provides these figures. You get, the donor can propose, and then you can basically get back to them according to maybe Bank of Uganda rates, according, so because they can access these rates globally. You get it, eh? And also for matters of fairness, of course, sometimes because they want to make sure that they restrict any kind of manipulations they may dictate on a given exchange rate. But the inflation rate should be matching what is happening. Inflation rate cannot be fixed. You get it? Yeah. So that is what would basically happen. So as you can see, this, even when you come to your summary here, it has already been updated. Personnel. So you can see, for example, this template is already has already formulas in. This is 27 for year 1. We've not done anything in year 2, and the 27 comes here. So when you update, everything shall come here, and the donor will have the overall cost as it is in this tab. That is how simplistic templates can be. So for you, just keep on including what you have. In case you have offices, now, like for example, this is office name. Maybe you can say this is Wakiso office. Okay, no, these are still staff. These are still staff. These are still staff who are staying in a given office. Maybe here you can have an administrator. You get it? Give them the name, give them the amount. Maybe this is 500,000. It computes. You're able to put either you're charging us the whole 12 months or you're allocating the cost. So these are personnel costs, and the total for personnel comes there, as you can see. Then we have fringe benefits. So like I said, different budgets come differently. There are some budgets that will ask you to include the fringe benefits under the values of the salaries. Now, if, for example, if that was the case, this 500,000, if this person's salary, would go ahead to include the rest, include different things, and maybe we shall go ahead to include the 10%, or the 10% NSSF, which will be 50,000. Okay, maybe you can say 10% of the 500,000. Maybe you want to keep a trail, and maybe if you maybe you have the medical insurance, you can divide it over 12 months, and you're doing might be a monthly charge in case you want to indicate that, and maybe the monthly charge could be less, maybe at 45,000. So your, sorry, I did, this was 5 million. So your value might be like this, but when it is already incorporating, this was 10%, when it is incorporating other fringe benefits. If somebody gives you a tab for fringe benefits, then you're able to bring it in here. You're able to say maybe maybe I have NSSF. You get it. So you put NSSF, then you put the respective amount that is charged, like that. Then we have travel. Now, travel is also very key when it comes to donor budgets, because you're going to travel. So as you can see, we have airfare, we have local transport, per diems, and all that. So yours is to make sure TBD is to be decided, because at this point in time when you're budgeting, you don't know the stuff that is going to be here. So they put the word TBD. You get it? They put the word TBD. So that is how the donor template may look like if the donor is giving you a template. So you have to fill this in, and by the time you give it to them, everything should be really clear. Because, for example, we have already a tab for travel. Now, under the travel budget updates itself direct. So you have to first come here and update and include and say, maybe here they're asking you for include the origin and destination. Include the origin and destination. So here I would go ahead to, let's say, maybe include Kampala, maybe to Mukono. Maybe we have operations in Mukono. Type of travel, this is local travel. And maybe this is a vehicle hire. So they ask you, what is the vehicle hire cost in USD? Maybe let's say we hired maybe at 370, and maybe that is about maybe $100. You get it? So then you also, they asking per diem per location, you also include it. But if per diem to Mukono, maybe we give maybe $5. You get it? Okay. This destination, this is Mukono, and you put your $5 there. So like that. So you base on what the donor's really given you. Yeah. So Godfrey, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel. Samuel, I think there is something you did. You wrote instead in the cell that it's already having formula instead of writing there. Yes, where your cursor is, because in the cell you used, I think that is still the continuation of that cell B8. That $100 you put there is a formula already in that cell. Yeah. Try down. Yes, you're supposed to bring that one here in the Air Force or daily vehicle hire cost in local currency.
Okay. Okay, I get you. I get you. Thank you. Yeah. So it can be as detailed as this. It gives you the guidance, as you can see. Like I indicated, sorry, I made an error here. You shouldn't write in the white. You shouldn't write in the blue. You get it, huh? So thank you for that clarification. So as you can see, we have our travel budget here. So you keep on inputting the values as they are in. This should pick from, this is picking from, of course, this is picking from detailed budget, C2, we can see it. Detailed budget, column C2. Sorry, okay, C2. So it was picking from the exchange rate here. You get it, huh? It was picking from the exchange rate, just a moment. This is C9. So you put in local currency here. You put, for example, this can be, for example, 370. This is 370,000. Now, if we have this formula on here, it will be able to pick from the detailed budgets, just basically a formula that is getting this 370,000 and dividing it by your exchange rate here. You get it, huh? That's what we just wanted to clarify. Thank you, Godfrey. So that is what you do. So you only fill here. So if, for example, we had another location, maybe Kampala to Arua, then this could be, for example, airfare. So you can include, okay, this is airfare or data hire in local currency. Now, in case you're being charged in dollars, you may have to rework backwards. You get it, huh? You have to work backwards so that you don't have to input it directly here. So for example, if you're being charged 2 million for that flight, it also contributes. So then you put maybe Arua and you put the respective value. This has not computed because the value is so small, but I think when you increase, this should be able to, okay, these are already formulas. But if this was 50, I think you can see it gets to this is in local currency. So if this is, for example, 20,000, this will be $5. The same thing for Arua, this could be maybe 50,000. This will give you $14. So like that is how you do. Now, as you update here, it should be able to update your summary here. I think you can see we already have something under our direct costs. No, sorry. Just write confirm down here. So what you do, I've tried to figure it out. What you do, you keep putting the details here, so that by the time you transfer your value here under your travel, you have to make sure that it links. Usually, sometimes they put these tabs because they want to get the detail of each line that you're inputting. You get it, huh? Because they want sometimes to know what exactly is composed. Now, for example, you can see we have a list of stuff here. Whatever I updated the other side of Ongoma and Justin was able to come here and able to show the details. So sometimes they want these details to basically get a picture of your total values that you've put the other side. They're basically like attachments. Just like the way we have here, we have program activities. Now, under program activities, of course, they also first ask you for your assumptions, like your current rates. Maybe what is your lodging, what is your per diem, what is your breakfast, and so on. And then down here, you now start with your activity one. For example, if maybe this is a training of youths, and maybe the activity here could be maybe training of youths, sorry, in maybe catering and baking skills in Mukono, like that. So you come here, they're asking you for number. Remember, we are entering within where there is blue. Number of occurrences when you're going to do this. Maybe you're going to do this maybe 2 times, and duration of the event. Remember, this is year 1, so you keep populating even for year 2. Maybe in year 2, you'll do this at 4 times. And then duration of the event, maybe the duration of the event is, maybe you do this for 5 days. Number of persons with travel needs, the people that may need maybe to come, for example, the youths, maybe you put like 10. And then the number of persons without travel needs, of course, those that maybe stay in that area, maybe this could be like 5. You get it? Now, if you've gone ahead to include here, if you've included, for example, your lodging national, and include, for example, the unit cost, maybe the lodging is 100,000. So it computes this unit. It asks you, maybe this is per lodging, is per traveling participant per day. Cost basis, maybe this is according to your company policy, and so on. And then you can have, for example, okay, regional field. This could be maybe 200,000. So it also, maybe you can call this, maybe this is per traveling participant. And this could be maybe because according to government policy. Sometimes government dictates, especially on government workers' allowances. This could be, let's say, for example, maybe per diem, maybe you pay 50,000 as your per diem. Maybe this is also for traveling participant per day. This could also be, in case you have anything to include, then you include it there. Now, as you come down, once you've input this, you now come to the line item here and say you're budgeting for this activity, you're budgeting for lodging. Now, when you put lodging immediately, it is going to pick up to compute how much you need for lodging based on what we had here up. Remember, you said that your lodging is 28%. So your unit cost under the activity line here will be 28. Now, unit for year 1, it is getting our number of traveling participants, which is 10, and it is multiplying it by the duration of the event. So you have to lodge them for 5 days, so which gives us the 50. You get it. Now these are basically formulas. Of course, one of the things that you have to know as a finance professional is you have to learn some of these formulas, because these templates are developed by individuals. You get it. But if yours is just to input these figures, it's just to know where should I fill and where should I not fill. Sometimes they may lock these formulas, so even if you try to input, it doesn't work. But that is how it would be. So at the end of the day, this just does automatically. In case we are trying to look at per diem and we're trying to look at nationals, it will also update. Now per diem, it has given us the unit cost 14 because of what we input up. So that hasn't been input once. And then when it comes to the units, it has also gone ahead to look at the number of traveling participants. Remember, we have some participants who stay within the given place, and that is why it is not including it there. Now, in case you're including maybe transportation for local participants, of course, those are not traveling, but it picks it from here. In case maybe we had included maybe 20,000 for people who are coming from the same place, and this is also maybe per day, traveling participants, local participants, and maybe this is according to historical experience. Now, when you get down here, you see, it will put the 6 that you put and then put the 5. So like that. So as you keep inputting here, of course, this is like your summary. You have to make sure that now you transfer it into your project here. I think we have, just a moment. We have project costs. So we have program costs, we have training of youth. So it has picked what we have under training of youths from here, and it has been able to populate it, and has also given it the amount, which is 4280. So I think you saw this is 42. Okay, when you look at bottom here, it is 4280. So it picks it on automatically. So that's how budgets might work. So sometimes you may need to develop budgets manually, or sometimes the donor can give you a template like this to be able to basically appreciate it. So that is what I wanted to basically show to you. Okay. How about return tickets? Let's just look at the travel here. Okay, this is origin to destination. Now, of course, what you can basically, sometimes, of course, depending on the template, they can maybe put a return ticket, so you budget for it there. But in case there is no return ticket, then you would go ahead to include a line here. You get it, and say maybe from Mukono back to Kampala, like that. So these templates are not free standard that you find this for every donor. They really totally vary. They may really totally vary. So I hope we've understood the aspect of budget phasing much more. So we move now to budget monitoring, and under budget monitoring, we are trying to make sure that management is reviewing to ensure that the spend against budget is as expected. Management is reviewing the spend, make sure that it is as per budget. Now, of course, if there are any variances, like the variances we saw yesterday, then management should take proper action. We said management can take proper action by one, of course, they can go ahead to review the transaction listing. I think like the way they are bringing it here. Check the transaction listing to spot any miscoding or maybe any erroneous errors. You get it? Now, this should not only even be done, by the way, for only budget lines that are maybe are overspent or underspent. It's very, very good practice for you to continuously look through your transaction listing. You get it? You should always look through your transaction listing to make sure that there is no any posting that has been made. When you're running, let's say, several projects, you can get yourself cases where, for example, where somebody is actually posting, another project is actually posting on a project that is not theirs. So it's very imperative that we take that into consideration. Someone says, I would like to inquire about assets. If the donor gives you money to purchase assets such as cars, do you need to recognize the depreciation cost of such assets? Now, in most cases, and this is the common practice, when somebody gives you, for example, part of your budget includes purchase of assets, you recognize or you charge the project at that point in time when you buy the asset. Actually, most NGOs don't run, they don't do depreciation. They don't run depreciation. Some do, some run depreciation, but mostly they don't usually run depreciation because they charge the donor at the time of purchase. You get it? They charge the donor at the time of purchase. So it's not, you cannot charge again the donor depreciation. Remember, this is their asset. And at the end of the day, when the project ends, they will actually either take back the asset or resell the asset. So even when you look at their balance sheets, some of them don't really have, the balance sheets don't have what? They may not really have those fixed assets. Actually, assets are like expensed. You get it? The assets are expensed. So good for us to know that. I want to just show you how a transaction listing may look like. Okay, so this you see is a transaction listing. Let's try to. So what a transaction listing is basically, I'll give you how we get a transaction listing. Now, when, for example, you buy a motor vehicle, when you buy your motor vehicle, definitely you will debit maybe the motor vehicle line. And this will be the same line that is onto your donor budget. So you debit the motor vehicle donor code. Maybe we're buying this motor vehicle at, let's say, maybe 20 million. And then we are crediting, say cash, worth 20 million. So what happens is this line will go to, will hit, once it hits your donor code, it creates a transaction listing. You get it, huh? So when you go and run the donor code for motor vehicle, you'll be able to see this transaction in there. You get it. So for example, if you had another maybe motor vehicle that you bought of the same value, maybe this time it was 10 million. This is 10 million, like that. And maybe you also bought, okay, let's use 2. So what happens with the transaction listing is that usually, just like the way I can show here, your transaction listing will have a date. Transaction listings are also called general ledger. General ledgers can be run from the system. Any accounting system can run a general ledger. So it, for example, it will have a transaction date. It will have other parameters. Maybe the time you updated that transaction in the system. Transaction date is when you actually input the transaction. Oh, sorry. Transaction date is the date that maybe is on the invoice. Maybe the payment was done. Updated is the time when you input in the system. These parameters can really vary according to accounting systems. You get it. And then you can also have different other fields. For example, in this transaction listing, we have cost center. You get it. You can also have maybe cost center detail, just to show you what this cost center relates to. This is SOF. This is source of funding. Maybe you have different source of funders. These are donor codes. These are all donor codes. Then you can have the period in which that cost relates, and then you can have the text that amount relates to. Now, you know, with your double entry, here you see only the side that goes to the donor. This side is the side that you see. For example, if maybe the next transaction here was maybe a purchase of maybe if we purchased, even if it was, let's say maybe purchased a computer. So these are the lines that you'll find in your transaction listing as it is. And when you also submit, for example, like a financial report, the donor will also be interested in the transaction listing because it helps them. Because at the end of the day, if you're reporting, for example, and say maybe assets, my assets have maybe spent maybe summation of this, and that. If your assets, you've spent 10 million, the only thing you can do is to give, of course, the transaction listing to be able to tell the donor how you came to the 40 million. So we are saying that even you, on a monthly basis, if, for example, you're looking at your performance, you're looking at the performance of your project, and you see 40 million on your project, you can reference it back by going back to your transaction listing and finding out what is within the 40 million. You get it. So that is what basically happens. So it's very important. Now, yesterday I tried to show you something on budget performance. We can just try to use another template for you to so for example, if this is I will delete this. So if this is my budget, we are saying that as you have your budget, you always, of course, definitely have your actuals on a monthly basis. And actuals should also correspond to each of your lines. You get it? So if, for example, I'll even hide this. Once I do budget monitoring, I might hide the other and only concentrate on a single column, the total. So mine is, you can look at budget monitoring either on the overall budget, or you can look at the phased budget, maybe the monthly budget. You get it? So if, for example, I'm looking at the overall total, and if, for example, here I have maybe $3,000. Okay, this is 30,000. And maybe here I have, let's say, maybe 1,000, like that. We said yesterday that the burn rate is our key tool. You get it, which is the actual divided by the budget, of course, times 100, or okay, times 100%. I'll write that in percentage, like that. So continuously, you're able to get your respective burn rates for each of these values. For example, this is 33%. Of course, variance is also key. The variance is also very key, where you're getting this minus that, this minus that. So this is your variance. Now, in case we had phased, in case we had phased and we had maybe a January budget, and let's say our January budget was, let's say, okay, January actuals, okay, January budget is 2,000. Let me just even do this, since this is a personnel cost, divided by 12, like that. Like that. So these are my actuals for January. So this is burn rate against, we can call it life of grant, because you're looking at the overall budget. Now, let's try to, okay. Then you can have a burn rate for January as a month, and you can, this is monthly burn rate. So the burn rate for January, what I'm looking at the actual for January divided by the budget for January. So that is what it's giving me. I'm doing the actual, sorry, our actual is 1,000 divided by that, giving me 391%. I want to demonstrate to you something here, that you know, if you're doing your budget monitoring, why it is important for you to actually break down your budget in monthly is because if you're doing your evaluation and you're only looking at the overall budget, which is the overall life, you can see we are at 13%. This might make you to feel like, okay, we are making progress. But remember, this is January. And if you proceed like this, it means that you will actually overspend. And that is why it is good for us to break down these budgets, for example, on a monthly basis, so that even when we get our actuals monthly, we can evaluate ourselves based on a monthly budget. So if we are looking at this column of actuals and the budget of January, you can see our burn rate. Our burn rate is showing us that we are actually overspending. So when you're doing your budget monitoring, make sure that you look at both life of the grant or life of the award, and also look at the monthly. You get it, huh? You can go ahead to also, there's what we call of course, you can also look at the variance for January. The budget minus actual to give you that. Now, yesterday we said that when you have these weird percentages, and we're saying not only the weird percentages, you must go ahead and check and see what is within these values. What is this 3,000? Did they not just post somebody's salary on this line? Maybe the accountant posted, maybe the accountant is salary on this line instead of only posting the healthy officer's salary. You get it. And then the same thing for this. You get it. So if somebody had only ended here looking at the life of the grant, they wouldn't have pictured that. But when they go to look at monthly, they are able to know that actually so that is why it is important to break down. Some people even go down to break it in terms of weeks, but I think it's better for you to. And that's why on a monthly basis, you should be able to run what we call this that we are doing is called a BVA analysis. It's called a BVA analysis. The word BVA is budget versus actual. It is budget versus actual. So that is what happens. So you have to make sure that you do a BVA analysis on a monthly basis. So that is what is within your budget monitoring. And we are saying why is it necessary is to ensure that resources are being used for their planned purposes. It's very important because unless you do budget monitoring, you may find yourself actually using money for other purposes. And then, of course, also to ensure economic, efficient, and effective use of resources. So if you're overspending on a given line, it is likely maybe you're using maybe you're sourcing from a supplier that is expensive. So when you're tracking your budget on a monthly basis, you're able to change maybe the supplier within there. You get it, and that will help you to ensure you achieve this objective. And then, of course, also ensuring that errors are corrected before a project is before the project is over. Guys, you can think that you've spent all the money, but when in reality, somebody, instead of posting 10 million, they posted 100 million. So for you excited that you've been able to spend maybe over 100 million within a very small point in time, but when the project is over, already the end date has come, you cannot go ahead to implement, and that alone will cost you definitely. So it's very important for us to understand. And frequency, it should be done on a monthly basis and a continuous basis. Now, by continuous basis, what we are saying is that budget monitoring, even when somebody is going to spend, for example, somebody has put in a requisition note to spend for an activity A, it does no harm for you to look at your budget and see, was this activity budgeted for and how much have we spent on this activity? Now, of course, sometimes we have limitations because our systems are not real time, that they cannot update certain kind of information. But at least on a monthly basis, you can easily be able to capture all expenditures and be able to tell how much you're remaining on a given line. But where you have a system that can track this, that's why some systems even do LPOs from, you cannot do a manual LPO, you have to do a LPO from the system. And the system will prompt you and tell you you're either out of budget or you still have budget on a given line. So budget monitoring should actually be continuous. And then also the best way to have a good budgeting system is to make sure the coding of your donor budget or the coding of your budget matches the coding of your expenditure. So if the budget has been uploaded into the system, when you're posting an expenditure, it should be posted on that budget code. So that at the end of the day, even this that I've just been doing, the budget versus actual, some systems are able to run it automatically. You get it? You're able to get a system that runs that automatically. So it's very important for us to appreciate that we have to make sure that we do the right coding to help us be able to monitor. NGOs that are working in different areas go ahead to even, of course, include what we call cost centers. Cost centers, these are like specific areas where costs are incurred. So for example, if a cost is being incurred in Gulu, they will charge it to the Gulu cost center. So that at the end of the day, you're able to track your budget even to the smallest unit possible. You're able to know that, okay, Gulu consumed this, Alua consumed this amount, maybe Kampala consumed this amount. You get it? So even when you're trying to trace the errors, you can know who traveled to Kampala within a given point in time, and that you can be able to rectify and reach out to the person maybe to give you more information or to correct whatever error was made. So that is why budget monitoring, we have to also think about the coding. So this is the variance analysis I have just done for you, which is the budget to date minus the expenditure to date. And then the variance percentage. Yes, you can actually also have variance percentage, which is variance divided by budget to date times 100. And then the burn rate, which is expenditure to date times total budget times 100. And we're saying that causes of variances have to be documented. For example, the change could not be because of an error, but it could be because of inflation. It can also be because of change in quantity. Maybe you planned for 10 people. I think you've held activities where you plan for 10 people and 20 appear. Maybe another person tells another and you see 20 people appearing. So you should be able to include that, as well as, of course, misposting. So the variance percentage they are basically talking about is like you've seen, they're saying it's just the variance, this variance divided by the budget. If it's, for example, we are looking at the variance on life of grant, the 20 divided by it will give you the variance percentage. Actually, alternatively, you can just get this minus 100%. You get the burn rate subtracted from 100% gives you the variance percentage. So that is what basically happens. So you can look at that and make sure that you do the right action. So on a monthly basis, yours is to make sure that the budget is being monitored accordingly. So I hope that is clear. So we move to the next one, which is, of course, the budget monitoring process. We are saying that identify the current position, review actual expenditures, including a detailed review of the transaction listing. I hope you understood what the transaction listing is. You get it. The transaction listing is one that gives you the details of a given cost on your report. Is what gives you a detail of your, just like the way we've just been doing the analysis. Whatever you have in the column January should be supported by transaction listing. You get it. And then also compare current position to planned position. Make sure that you're looking at life of award, year to date, and monthly. I think you saw why I brought in the monthly, also life of award, the life of grant. Now, year to date, how you'd look at year to date. Just try to add a column here. What we're trying to mean by year to date. Now, you can have cases where this project is, for example, let's say this project is 5 years. If this project is 5 years, and maybe these are your January actuals, and I'm going to try to change something. If it's 5 years, then it means this total is divided by, it's not divided by 12, it is divided by the months that are within 5 years, which is 60. So this will be divided by 6. I want to demonstrate for you the year to date. So if this is a 5 years project, this is what will look like. This is how it will look like. So you can see if these are actuals for January, maybe I'll change this and make this 100, that the percentages are not really weird. So this is my 5 years budget. These are my January actuals. Oh, sorry, January budget. This is my actual. So if I want to get my burn rate, we are saying so this is the monthly burn rate, and the monthly burn rate is basically looking at the actual of January divided by the budget of January to give you these values. Now, I then have, of course, let me first hide the variances so I don't confuse you. At least you've understood the variances. So you have the burn rate for the life of grant. Now, year to date is trying to look at the specific, for example, this year is maybe 2021. So what you do for year to date, you also create, you create a budget for the year. You create a budget for the year. So if this is year one, you say year one budget. So our year one budget, definitely, of course, it is just, this divided by 5, since there are 5 years. So that will be my year one budget. You get it? So as I have my overall life of our budget or life of project budget, I have my year one budget. I also have my monthly budget. You get it? So as I have this, I also have to make sure I have this information. So I have my actuals for January. I have my actuals for January. I also have, of course, these have been calculated, but what you should also have is, for you to get the year-to-date budget, is to get the year-to-date actuals. And by year-to-date actuals, this will be cumulative. And this will look at, this year-to-date actuals should be looking at your performance from, let's say, January to date. Now, in case we were, for example, in the month of, in case we were in the month of, let's say March, you get it. You know, I'm trying to use January, and January is at the start of the month. So if it's at the start of the month, definitely the year-to-date performance will still be the same, because remember, the year has just started. So our budget for year-to-date will still be the same values. The budget will still be the same. The actuals will still be the same values. So our burn rate of course, definitely will be this divided by our year-to-date, our year budget, which is that. So even for this line, it will be our actual to date divided by the annual budget. So this will be like your annual burn rate, your year-to-date burn rate. I hope you get the picture. So this is basically measuring you on, this is your budget for the year. How much have you spent on your budget for the year? You get it. So we are saying we have a 5 years project. We have the budget for the 5 years, but we've divided this budget into 5 years. We've gone ahead to get the annual budget. We've also gone ahead to get the monthly budget. So the year-to-date looks at your performance on your annual budget. Yeah, so that is what basically happens. Okay, so of course, in our budget monitoring is always make sure that you identify any actions that are required to address the variances. In case the action people are not performing, maybe it's underperformance, then management has to institute plans to make sure that performance is, of course, rectified. They're able to perform. You understand? If there's any limiting factor, then that should be, of course, that should be highlighted accordingly. So, as you can see, our actions, one, realignment of the budget. Now, this realignment, I explained yesterday, I said, there are cases where you overspend on a line where it is actually true, you actually spent that money on that line. Maybe because at the time of budgeting, the conditions were different compared to the conditions, and you realized when you had spent the amount of money. So here you can actually look at the donor rules and flexibility. Remember what we said, that some donors can allow you, for example, to overspend on a given line. If it's a salary line, you can overspend, for example, an accountant's salary. But at the end of the day, your personnel budget should not be overspent on. So you can be able to underspend maybe on a program officer and overspend on maybe the accountant. So that we call it budget realignment. Budget realignment is basically getting money from one budget line to the other, either to cover up an underspend or to clear an overspend. Yeah. And then, of course, the other step would be agreeing areas where costs need to be reduced. Of course, definitely, if you have overspent on a given line, the best for you not to overspend on the overall total is to look for possible ways of how to underspend on a given line, so that you're managing your budget. And then, of course, following up on delayed procurements. Now, sometimes you may underspending because there is a given cost that has not been captured in the system. Maybe an invoice has not been received. So management should go ahead to follow up with any procurements that has not come through. Then the other is request for a no-cost extension from donors. We said a no-cost extension from donors is where we request the donors to allow us to spend the remaining amount of money without them giving us money. We call this no extension, NCE. I also told you about the cost extension. Cost extension is where, in this case, you ask donors to actually give you more money for implementation. Then we have, of course, request for donor to modify budget. This is very similar. And then request donor for additional funds. Yes, there are also cases, someone asked this question. There are also cases where you ask the donor to give you more money. Maybe because conditions change. There are some donors that are really flexible. If it is because of errors, then you have to go ahead and immediately correct those errors. It's very, very important for us to understand. Now, the reason why we have our budget like the way our budget monitoring the way it is, I want to show you how a financial report would look like. Okay, so this, as you can see it basically looks like what we've just been doing, our BVA, budget versus actual, but this is a report. So the reason why we do our performance, budget performance monitoring that way is because even when we are doing the reporting, now, the two things that the donor would be interested in when it comes to most of the templates will always have a budget and always have actual. You get it? And we always have, of course, the other will have, of course, the burn rate, and then they'll have a variance analysis. They'll have a variance analysis. Now, this is a project. This is transforming of women livelihood. You can see the date. The partner name is Bucks Africa. You can see the reporting date. They were. This is a report that is being sent to the donor. The report date is that. Then the reporting currency is that. So you can see these are our activities. This DA is this is a donor code, which you also have in your system that you post on. Then we have activity description. This is how your budget looks like. The same way your budget looks like is the same way you bring it in your report. So you can see our different lines that are on each of our budget. Let's try to see. So you can see we have a budget as per agreement, which is like your total budget. Okay, the January to March forecast, and then we have your actual expenditure for the period, for the prior month. This is what has been spent in the previous periods. Then we have our actual expenditure for the current reporting period, January to March, right there. Then we have our cumulative expenditure. And then we have the remaining budget. We have the remaining budget. To hide this. Okay. So this is an example of a financial report. So as you can see, our budget monitoring is not different of how we are going to report. In the same way, even the donor is interested to know, we gave you this amount of money, how much have you spent on it? You get it. So if this is our budget as per agreement, we shall try to see, for example, another line. Shall use maybe utilities here. So you can see our budget for utilities is at $1,100, and we have spent $529. This is for the previous period, when you're reporting for January to March. So this is for the previous period from January to December. You spent 529. And now you see you have spent your actuals for the period. Here is 560. This is from January to March. And then your cumulative expenditure is this. This is trying to add what you had spent up to December, your last reporting period, plus what you've spent in that period, gives you cumulative expenditure. And then your remaining budget, what you're remaining with on this line. And then it goes ahead to compute the burn rate, percentage of spent, which is just 540. Okay, it is this cumulative expenditure. Sorry, let me just, this is percentage spent per year one. It is looking at your, this is just trying to look at your year one expenditure, which was January to March. So the 560 divided by your forecast for January to March. So that is what it is trying to look at, and it's giving you the percentage. So this one is saying this is your budget for this period of January to March. And then this is what you've spent, actual, what you've spent, and then this is your burn rate. And then here, they want you to explain the variance. They want you to explain the variance. So as you can see, that is how it looks like. And then it is just signed off. You put the totals respectively. So the reporting templates can also really be different, but I just wanted to show this to you since we've just done the other budget monitoring process. You get it? Yeah. So do we have any questions? Any questions? You can unmute and ask if you have any questions so far. On what we've just indicated. Okay. Godfrey is okay. What about other people?
Sam, maybe you first take us to that the last explanation you've been making, and I look at something. I want to ask something on that table.
On this table. Okay, right there.
Okay. Like the percentage spent in year one. For example, the first line item, it's 128%. Is that the burn rate?
This is okay. This report we are reporting for January. We just write January to March. So on our budget for January to March, we overspent by 128%. You get it, huh?
We overspent by 128.
We overspent by 28%. So that is why it shows you a red there. So we actually already 100% on that line.
So there
100%
is
plus.
Meaning there is a variance.
Yes, there is a variance, and as you can see, this 128 is actually a summary of this. You get it, huh? So when you get down here, you actually realize that what is bringing that is actually this laptop. You get it, huh? Is the laptop line. And that is why you see in the narration here, we said one laptop was procured for unessential stuff. So when they are budgeting, they budgeted for, let's say, less laptops. So they went ahead to buy another laptop for unessential stuff.
Meaning there was no budget for that one.
Yes, they under budgeted on that given line.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so depending on the flexibility of your donor, for example, this donor has 100% flexibility. So what happens is, at the end of the day, as long as the bottom line you're still within, then they are really okay. You get it, huh? Yes, so that is what happens.
But what in that instance, do we like, because we under budgeted for that, do we have to request the donor in writing before we go ahead to buy the laptop?
You look at your donor rules and in the agreement. For example, if the donor says you have zero flexibility, it means if you budget 1,500, you should spend 1,500. You get it, huh? Okay. Yes. So cases where the donor restricts you, then you have to seek approval. If the donor says you have 100% flexibility, as long as you don't overspend on the overall budget, then you may just communicate to them out of courtesy, but you can easily make some of these decisions. You know, because some donors, because they want to give you this kind of room for innovativeness and so on, they may not have to restrict everything. You get it, huh? Okay. So depending on your terms and conditions in the agreement.
Okay. Then that means that when you're reporting, you have to give your explanation why that has gone.
Yes. Now in this case, it's likely we actually communicated to the donor. You get it, huh? But remember, communication to the donor and the donor approving our budget and approving that continue to let's say maybe buy the laptop does not change our budget. What changes our budget is when we have the budget realignment. You get it, huh? And how the budget realignment would be in this case would be maybe if we had, for example, if there was, let's say, some money here, maybe we had actually planned for a country coordinator at around 22, maybe 22,000 and so on. And this country coordinator does not maybe appear. Maybe we later think they are not relevant. So we don't spend on this, and maybe the budget is zero. So that amount can later be realigned to this line. Maybe this amount is maybe realigned to maybe laptops. You get it, huh? And maybe this value maybe now becomes 22,000. Now you can see that the rate, it will no longer now be an overspend.
Okay.
You get so, but that the donor allows you to do that realignment. You get it. Okay.
Then, Sam, in the budget, because there is where they can ask you to give a budget notes, like when we are phasing out the budget, is that where the budget notes comes in?
Okay. Yes, it can be either at phasing, but it can also be actually at a point in time when you're doing, for example, even when you're doing the donor budget as well, they can ask you for budget information. And usually that budget information is basically to give more details of why you've actually maybe budgeted a given amount by that value. It's just like explanations. So you can have a sheet that you can add to your budget to explain that. Let me see if I have something. Budget narrative, budget. Okay, I'm going to try to search for one of the budgets that could have that and show you. So it's basically just trying to explain your different, like maybe you've budgeted for maybe maybe 1,500 for laptops, and then you indicate that maybe yes, the laptops may be at 1,000 on the market, but we plan to actually maybe import these laptops, so there's an extra cost or charge. You get it, eh? So it's just trying to basically give more information to the person who is going to look at your budget so that it doesn't cause more question marks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other question? Okay, so I hope we've also learned, we've also now understood what an implementation plan is as well, from what we looked at. So your phased budget can be altered continuously. Usually, you can have your phasings, let's say annually, you know, because at the start of the project, you may not know when some costs will actually be paid, maybe because you don't have any certainty on exactly how really maybe the conditions of the country. For example, you're at the start of maybe at the start of the year, you can't tell either we shall successfully go through the year without a lockdown and so on. So sometimes you can phase, for example, for 3 months, and then after the 3 months, again, you rephase like that. Yeah. So there was a document that I shared with you. It was the NGO handbook. I don't know if you were able to look at that book, that document. Did anyone look at it?
Oh, I saw it, but you know, you can't read and finish everything. We need more time to look at.
Yeah,
them.
so I encourage you to go through. It has a lot of information, and the information is really, especially for those that are not practicing, but even if you're practicing already in the NGO world, there are some best practices that you can really get from this. I remember even the times where I was trying to move from the private sector to the NGO world. Even when you're preparing for an interview, these now I think you can see, for example, things like burn rate, the ones we've just looked at, expressed as a percentage, the amount of the grant budgeted used up so far, also known as the grant or budget utilization ratio. So they go ahead to explain most of these things. You can basically know more about them. I already talked about cost center and so on. So it's a very resourceful document. So we cannot go through all this. I think you saw, like, for example, we spoke about restricted funds, which have conditions attached on how to be used, usually with the requirement report back to the donor. I think we also talked about unrestricted. You get it. So all this information is within here. I think these are the unrestricted funds. Can use support any of the organization's objectives without conditions attached. Things like variance, you get it. We also have, of course, this environment. Environment is like a budget realignment we've just looked at, the ability to transfer from one budget heading to another. You get it, huh? For example, if one line is underspent, then you transfer money from where it is overspent to come and offset the underspent. So they are very, very, very. So I would love you to, in the next couple of days, to go through this, find some time and go through and try to understand. Just, you may not have to go through everything, but find key things that you can try to grasp, and make sure that you also save this document somewhere that anytime you need it, you can always reference back to it. So we have the financial management process here, what exactly happens. I think you can see where we have the budgeting, where we have the implementing, and then we have the monitoring the income and spending compared to the budget. So all this is important. So some two hands up. Okay, someone says the book has what I need. Anyone with the hand up who wants to ask a question?
Yes.
Just
thinking aloud. I don't know whether you're going to take us through the, say for example, if you're the prime and you want to bring on board some, like the implementing partners like CSOs.
Yes.
What procedures do you follow when you're bringing on board the CSOs?
Okay. Okay, I'll be sharing something about that tomorrow.
Okay.
So this book is very, very rich with a lot of content on how NGOs, if you're going for an interview, this is your manual. Just sit through and understand some of these things. You will be really good to go. Some of the things are really similar to what you're doing in the private sector, but it just give a little hint of what exactly happens in the NGO world. So I think even it has a part for budgeting here. I think you saw what we've been doing when you're budgeting for program administration costs, where you look at monthly. If you're budgeting for things like maybe transport costs, you look at kilometers, you're looking at per month, and so on. So anything that even after the class, maybe you may need more clarification, you can actually just, now, for example, if I wanted something about budgeting, I could just do a control find here and say I want to know maybe about budget monitoring. So it will take me to different headings of budget monitoring. So I think you can see creating budgets, I think you can see, for example, for personnel, describe the need for expatriate. How does each individual contribute to a project? All that. Now, this is what you include in your justification. For example, when you include let's say maybe a program officer, and maybe include 2 program officers, you also have to justify and indicate why you need 2 program officers. What fringe benefits shall be needed. Explain and justify annual increases in salaries and benefits. Maybe this is as per your company policy. So these are things you have to have in mind when you doing all these things. So we also have books of accounts, several things. So I hope this will really be very helpful to us as we, in case you go through something and it's not clear, we are going to have the WhatsApp group will run for the next at least a month for any clarifications that you look through and you need anything to maybe for clarity, then we are always there too. Yeah, this is about bribery. You know, NGOs depend on receiving money from donors, and we have to make sure that we maintain a high level of integrity and making sure that their money is safe. So these are some of the things that we shall be looking at tomorrow when we do risk assessment, for example, like CSOs that we want to bring on board. What exactly should we look out for to make sure that before we give them money, we are comfortable? The same thing that donors also do is what we actually also do when we are sourcing for CSOs. I'll share with you exactly what we do. So I think you can see accounting records. We have different things. So make sure that you really go through this document. Yeah. Somebody's hand is up. Godfrey, your hand is up. Is that right?
Not really.
Okay, so it's 3 minutes past 9. Yesterday we left a little late, so today I'll let you go a little early. And we talked a lot of things today, so I don't want you to forget the little that we talked, and I hope you've been writing down. Yeah, I'll share the recordings, just also to note that these recordings will really be available for one month. So you make sure you utilize them during this time. Make sure you note all that you need to note. Yeah, those that are in NGO world, like maybe Consulate, she's going to implement exactly what we have done here, maybe in her work. I think one of some of our students who have been part of this program are able to go back and look through what exactly they are doing and improvise on, improving some of these things. Even as you continue through, you know, today we are not just learning, but we're also creating networks, by the way. So if you already, there's that transfer of knowledge where even if you have a challenge in the way you're doing your things and you want to inquire, somebody's just a WhatsApp away and say, how are you doing it your side? I have this challenge, you get it? And that is what really sets us apart from other trainers. Plus ours is a practical way of doing things. So it's very important for us to have that in mind, that this training is not the end of everything. You utilize the networks as they are available, you get it? And for those that, of course, are studying this and maybe in the private sector or you don't have a job yet, make sure you keep this content as it is. Because exactly what we are studying right now are the things that you're going to find the next day being asked. You get it? By recruiters. So unless you've gone ahead to, let's say, keep some of these things, then you end up not getting basically what the other person might be interested in. So make sure you keep these materials in safe places to make sure that when an opportunity comes, you at least have somewhere to start from. You don't go green, because at the end of the day, you're going to include this on your CV. You don't want to include it there, and at the end of the day, they ask you about something and you cannot even say because somebody will understand that maybe you've not practiced, but at least if you say you've gone through a training, you should have an idea. If somebody speaks about advances, somebody should really, yes, reporting, would do more of reporting. Today I just gave you an insight, but we'll add more even as we do tomorrow in the NGO reporting. So do we have any other question? By the way, the NGO jobs are really very many. I hope all of you at least don't miss out the introduction, but I could miss out the job opportunities. Yeah, very important. I usually get my jobs from this site. I know some people don't believe in online things, but this is a site that will give you a picture of what jobs. These guys get these jobs from newspapers, from everywhere, and they go ahead to put them here. So I think you can see that these days they have several adverts because many people want to advertise. It's one of the most visited websites we have. So for example, we have this job of care. It's a finance manager job, a bit high end, but it gives you a picture of what an NGO person does. Okay, here it basically just had the skills. I wanted to see the responsibilities. This is a hospital. The budget officer. So you can get there and search and see how to. For example, TechnoServe. This is an NGO. Let's just see what was interested in here. This was a junior financial controller. I think you can see one of the roles and duties here is management of project funds, ensure that the funds are disbursed in line with set activities, budget and accountabilities are submitted in a timely manner. So you can see that some of the things that we are doing here: participate in the budget preparation and media reviews, preparation of cash monthly reports and cash needs, support month end and year end reconciliations, work closely with the program team to ensure project work plans and financial planning are in sync. This is what we said about budgets. Budgets should make sure, you should make sure that the budgets are not diverting from the work plan. And that is why you see, even if an activity was planned for example, for January, even in the budget should be basically January. Of course, these people also do these other kind of duties, but we're just trying to interest ourselves onto the NGO specific roles. I think you can see, ensure that TechnoServe programs are implemented with sound financial and administrative practices through efficient management of project funds and timely processing of payments. I think we looked at management of project funds. You get it? Now, for you, basically, of course, your CV definitely, if you're not an NGO, will not have some of these things, which is okay. But we are saying that make sure that your skill that you've gained from this is seen somewhere, either in your cover letter as well as your CV. Your CV, I said, where your personal profile is where you should bring it first. Somebody should be able to read it first. Even before they say this person is from private sector, we can't just list them. It should be able to, like, it should be something you should front first. Like, for example, I gave you an example. For example, when you're writing your cover letter, and that is why you see it's not good for people to just have a dummy CV, that every time there's a new opportunity, you have the same CV and you have the same cover letter, you just keep changing whom you are addressing to and keep sharing. You have to be a bit, of course, you have proactive, and you have to be in the shoes of the person who's shortlisting. Because if 1,000 people are applying, what will set you apart is making sure that you know what the person is looking for. But because when you see these roles and duties, somebody is actually looking for this within your CV. So if they can't find them in your job description, at least they should find them somewhere, somehow, or they should really get another confidence to tell them that you actually can be able to perform these things. Now, if you're given a chance to be shortlisted, and that is where you bring in all that you know. By the time you leave the panel, someone will say that this guy has actually never been in NGO, but they understand these things because you've been part of such a training. Consolate's hand is up. You wanted to ask something?
Yes, Sam. I just wanted to tell, like, the guys who are not yet in the NGO world, just like you've said, you build network. You never know the people you've met them, they may be like a mentor to you. By just even when they've called you for an interview, you ask, how is this done in the NGO world? So it's very important that you create the network, and even when someone has seen something, the person will say, so and so is looking for a job.
Yeah.
They can share with you.
Yeah. That
just
is very
like you can see and you'll say, Consulate need to apply for this.
True. And then those also that attended my the session I had, I said, don't be afraid to enter through the entry position. Just for example, this is junior financial controller, maybe a high level, but depending on what they're asking for example, here they're asking for person should have a degree, someone should have at least 3 years experience in similar position with that. Now, this should never discourage you. You get it? This should never discourage you. Give it a try. If at all you have these qualifications above, this you can apply. You lose nothing by applying, by the way. You get it? So you apply, you try your best. Sometimes you see they can fail to find somebody who has experience. Because, for example, I think when I was entering the NGO world, I think the requirements were a bit similar like this. They also had 3 years experience and had 3 years experience in the private sector. But once I applied and was given a chance to speak within the interview, they actually say this is the person we are looking for. You get it? So don't be discouraged to even enter from a starting point. I actually myself, I entered after I'd spent like, I think 3 years in the private sector. I entered with an entry level position, which was accountant. And within a very small period of time, because I had grasped many of these things, I was able to grow in just one year and a half, I was able to grow to the next level. You get it? So sometimes you make some career hard decisions for the betterness of your career. If you feel where you are, you're not really growing, yours is to make sure that you try out other opportunities elsewhere. You get it? Eh? And when you have these skills can open doors for you. So I just wanted to clarify. So you shouldn't be discouraged. Make sure that whatever you're learning, remember, life is about preparation. You never know when the skill will really pay off. Like Consulate said it. today we are part of this training, and the next day you're applying, and either consulate is part of the people that need an accountant, and when they look at your CV, they are like, oh, this person has a similar certificate like I have, so they were part of our training, and then they are like, okay, that training was beneficial, so this person can actually be able to execute this it's an entry position, and they give you a chance like that. So networks are very important. Godfrey,
But also,
mm-hmm.
but also some, there are NGOs that when you join them, they can hold you and there are no growth opportunities. So sometimes it's good also, as you do the interview and you apply, you do the background check.
Yeah,
if you can get other people who can help you.
Yeah, you
because
do the background.
even when you're joining a junior position, you may get stuck in the junior position for some good times.
Yeah, that usually happens, consulate. But you see, it's also about you. Remember,
Not
guys,
really, Sam. It's not really that. Sometimes they hold you to the extent you even don't have any other opportunity to get somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
That's
anyway,
why sometimes we make that. I call it making a wrong decision, deciding to go somewhere when you've not done the background check.
Yeah, background check is, by the way, very important, by the way. Actually, before you go to, one of the things that I did when I was entering where I'm working right now, I did a background check and realized that there were actually several positions ahead of me. You get it? So I know that if, for example, the finance team I'm going to join has maybe over 20 people, then at least I know within a year, part of those 20 people are moving maybe to another organization and so on. So there's some room for growth. You get it? Eh? So that is important. But what I was trying to say is that when you're in an organization and you're not growing and they're not giving you an opportunity to grow, you get it? I usually tell people that please find your way out. Of course, finding your way out is also not easy. But in the same way, it comes back to what are your networks? What skills have you added of late? What do employers exactly want? And of course, persistence as well. When you're applying, make sure you're persistent. It doesn't cost you anything to apply for any role that you see online here. Commit and say Fridays for applications. Send them out. Continuously send them out. And at the end of the day also, make sure that your CV and your cover letter sell you. Make sure that you're in the shoes of the person who's going to shortlist, because you don't know anyone, maybe where you're applying. So yours is to say, anyone who opens my email for my CV that I've actually submitted or my cover letter should actually be attracted. And that's why you see, even we say that when you're applying, make sure that you don't just write, please find attached my CV and cover letter. There are emails that are not opened. So other candidates will go ahead to write a narrative within the email, that even before you open the CV and the cover letter that is attached, you're already hooked. They are better than the person who has just said, dear sir, madam, please find attached my CV and so on. You get it? So there are really many factors to really, I think, making it in the career world. And we don't have to give up. We just have to continuously find what is needed and what should basically do. Yeah. So thank you so much for keeping here along. Godfrey, I hope your hand is not up by mistake.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I just want to find out something. I don't know. Before I would read all materials you gave us, what I want to know is, do we have any advisable way of how to handle people with advances and they're not complying? Like we can say advances should be accounted within 1 to 3 weeks, but you see that some people, it will take them time to do that. What is the best to do about that?
I think an accountant usually have a superior. So if maybe they are not accounting, then you forward this issue to the superior, and the superior can be able to handle that. You get it? Huh? Usually, of course, company policies stipulated, like I indicated yesterday, if somebody has not accounted, maybe for more than 5 days, maybe it's even going to a month, this can actually be, they can deduct their salary. You get it? Eh? So depending on the organization, if it's an institution where there's a lot of office politics, you also have to work within the office politics and see how to, as long as for you, your hands are clean, because at the end of the day, if somebody has not accounted, you've done all you've done emails, you've followed up and it does not happen, you're able to submit your report to your superior and give a narrative of what exactly. So they pick it from there. So that's what I can basically say. And then Patel indicated we should introduce ourselves. Yes, we will definitely introduce ourselves tomorrow as we end the class. So we just know each other and make sure that this network that we've created today can really be very helpful. Unless there's anything to be said, but I would want to let you go. I hope, Consolate, your hand is not up by mistake.
It's not by mistake. I just wanted to respond also to add onto what you told this guy about the advanced management.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to document all your follow-up so that in case of anything, you'll really show them you've really done your best.
Yeah. Very true. All right, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, Consolate, and everyone who has been able to participate, ask questions, and all those that have been able to attend this. I hope this is helpful. Make sure that you go back, read through the materials, interest yourself so much in this subject so that by the end of the training, you have something. Remember, I said we shall have an assessment after day 4. So that will just test your understanding of some of the things. So make sure that in anything that is not clear to you, you can ask that either through here or you can ask it maybe when we're on WhatsApp. So thank you so much. And I wish you the best in today's night. So feel free to
Thank you too,
go.
and good night.
Okay, good night, you too.